Hello and welcome to the comments section. My name is Brian if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to another New World video. Today we're going to be diving into your comments, your questions, suggestions, and so much more, with the real focus in on game difficulty as we build these videos off of our MMO discussion videos. This is kind of the second half of it, but if you're new and you've never seen a comment section video before, you can kind of treat this as a mini podcast. As people say, I talk too much, and yeah, that's very true. So welcome in, everybody. Be sure to smash a like so the algorithm knows what to do next, and let's just dive into your comments and let's talk about what you're talking about. First and foremost, this thing just made me laugh more than anything, saying, I don't play to play racist MMOs. New World is a racist game. New World does not have any short playable race. Where are the dwarves, the gnomes, the halflings, the shorts? The only game worth playing for is Ashes of Dwarf Creation. I just gotta say thank you so much for that enjoyable reading through. I have nothing really to add to this. Yeah, maybe New World is hating on the shorties out there, but yeah. This brought me so much joy. Keep being awesome out there, you dwarf lovers. All right, so kind of the root of the conversation here. I put out a poll on the channel community page, trying to just kind of differentiate the data. Maybe I should learn how to speak English sometime rather than stuttering my way through these videos. Stating, hey, we're going to talk about this on the podcast. Speaking of which, this week, if you're watching this over at Work the Game, Chris and I are going to talk about this very thing. He has been struggling. We haven't been able to get him a level 60 expedition clear. There's some difficult, challenging stuff with also the adjustments, so much more. I couldn't be happier with how it's balanced, but I'm not the only guy with the voice in the room. So I want to get it and put the question to you guys. Do you feel the content's too hard, just right, too easy? 65% of you say it's just right. 16 say it is too hard, and 18% say it is too easy. That's out of 552 votes with 13 likes on that. If you guys ever see those polls, hitting that like button is a great way of getting them out and getting a bigger reach when it comes down to that. So just as a heads up, if you see those, if you want to help those out so we can get wider ranges of data, that's really going to be up to you. Now let's get into the comments themselves. The number one Beaner says, I like the difficulty of dungeons, but I definitely think there should be 4 difficulties. Level 1, story difficulty, should be completable without any enhancements and level and gathering gear equipped. This will serve for the completion of story quests and practice runs. Mechanics should be the same as level 2, but less punishing. Level 2, currently tuning the base difficulty and current rewards. Repeatable quests must be completed at this difficulty or higher. Hard mode, level 3. Gear and enhancements required. Mistakes should be punished, but not spirit breaking. Any bis drop should be attainable at this difficulty. Mutation level 10 by the end of the dungeon. Level 4, expert mode. Min-max difficulty with dungeon-specific gear and expertise. This is for the misogynists. No drops better than level 3, but should offer you most rewards outside of gear, gold, season, XP, umbrals, etc. Tony says, New World isn't hard. It's just super boring and repetitive combat and content. Leveling gear is as boring as it is in WoW IMO. Douglas says, voted for hard. Anticipation below 60 is scaled terribly. Barkamini's at level 25. Recommended, but if you step in foot before level 35 at a minimum, you are toast. Same problem exists for Starstone at level 35 recommended, and you better be close to level 50 before bothering. This same pattern for the mobs being scaled way higher persists consistently over gear or accept death is how it feels. Red says, it's not that hard it's hard to find people. Why are there 10 mutations? Hard enough to find people, especially since the Trinity is being used. Dan follows this up and says, as a casual player returning to the game because of the hoopla that was on social media, YouTube, etc., I believe that the expeditions are way too difficult at the onset. I have 10 levels above normal. I would expect that the starting level to not be as so impossible. As for the season pass, the non-PvP player has someone who doesn't do expeditions due to the difficulty. It loses interest after getting through level 50 or so. Like the game, I enjoy the crafting, gathering, and the challenges of the open world, but to sum it up, yes, it could be scaled down to be a bit more fun. And then Ian says, I don't know about it being too hard, but there are 2 things which I really dislike. Firstly, crafting, on why there are so many ridiculous hoops to climb through to craft a level 600 item, leveling a skill to 200, getting a hold of the mats, and some of which are rare, buying or crafting trophies. Eating food, town buffs, and even it's a toss-up to get to 600. Crazy. Second, why can't I solo more, especially expeditions and dungeons? Now, I'm not trying to throw Ian under the bus. I'm going to respond to that kind of mindset first. I don't know if Ian likes MMOs, and I'm not saying that to say that solo players shouldn't play MMOs. By all means, I think that that is something that could be definitely explored in New World much better. In fact, the devs themselves have commented on it, and they said that they want to bring in some more endgame soloable activities. However, that's a fine and tricky line to walk because solo should be hard. I think solo should be probably the hardest. Like when you group up with people, that should ultimately make it a little bit easier. But that's just my perspective. But I'm interested in see what solo content, solo endgame content. When I say endgame in New World begins at level 1. Solo content at level 60, level cap should be, have more options for people to do different things. And that could be any number of things. I'd be kind of curious as to what you guys expect. Now, the root of my question and part of the discussion video that I put out as the TLDR is that I don't think actually expeditions should get easier, but I would like to see a new form of PvE content that would be brought in to allow for matching people together, doing the content, community building, not necessarily so hard and challenging, but fun regardless, to kind of teach various different mechanics, maybe kind of a boss rush mode, maybe kind of a, almost an practice invasion kind of mode. I think that'd be kind of cool. I think that would be something where, because we have easy mode dungeons, easy mode expeditions, aka the expedition is the instance challenge version. And yes, we do have too many mutations, and they've talked about like kind of scaling that back and cleaning that up a bit, which I think will be a good thing in the long run. But open world dungeons actually serve as that entry level perspective. It's just different from what people come to expect. A lot of people are used to instance simulator MMOs that you just kind of queue and then you do the content and you queue for whatever. And then eventually you face roll it and you get bored and you leave. The thing I like about how, and this is where the game could do a better job of communicating, like, hey, if you're struggling with expeditions, go do the open world ones. Because those scale, because you could bring in a whole army. And I think that's an enjoyable facet. I think it's fun to do these kind of things. I think it's crazy. It's very community focused. It's very MMO in its nature. And then if you want to then test your skills and merits and your preparation and comp, then you step into the expeditions. I don't view the expeditions as a guaranteed win because of how this game rewards you. It rewards you all the way up. If you don't, for example, I played a lot of instance MMOs where the reward is after you beat the boss and clear the content. And so it makes sense that you don't want somebody to quit because they can't do the thing. But in New World, you get rewarded every step of the way. Every little thing, every kill has a potential for a boost to level your expertise and all these things. Now, could these systems be refined? Absolutely. Should they be refined? And how that becomes where it becomes a gray area. But I think overall, this is a pretty interesting thing. Like a lot of people, like the one thing I would point out is difficult conversation. This concept of what is difficult content is just like where the devs talk about, like, what is difficult mean? It's all actually like, what is a function of time? Now, I think that the number one banner here talks, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. That kind of makes a lot of sense, in terms of rewards, because there's an incentive system. But what I tend to see, and where I tend to fall, where I tend to listen from all the different gaming perspectives, is that the complaint is the content's so easy and it's boring. I don't get a lot of that. Like, well, Tony says that the content's boring. It will exist, but I think one of the things I enjoy is that the fact that victory isn't assured and that the content balance isn't assured. And this is only doable because New World does have a player-driven economy. So the items and things that drop, not just the money and the coin and the expertise bumps, but the items can be sold and you have multiple different pathways. Obviously, getting it clear is the most profitable in terms of everything that can fall your way. But that's where it's like, I really hope that they kind of respect that this content in and of itself is meant to be a challenge. I do wonder though, with the balance changes that they've made, if these things aren't tuned a little too tight, and just because I've seen so many people struggle with them, and we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to explore that. But at its core, I really appreciate y'all's thoughts here. Is that obviously it's going to go back and forth. People are going to think it is too hard, too difficult, not hard enough. But I'd like to see what the devs can do to explore, especially when it comes to more options. And I think this is why I'm so pro aptitude level for the player, aptitude level for the weapon. I think when we start to look at all the different ways that you are gearing, one of the things that would be really cool is, as a player, if just regular experience, meaning anything you do is getting you progress. Same thing with the weapon, but it would be weapon specific. So if you keep using a specific weapon and it keeps leveling up after 20, like, you're going to naturally boost that weapon up as just a method of leveling, along with the other options that exist currently. I think those would be two important systems to help give more options to players. But I think that there's definitely work that can be done. I'm not saying that this is the way it is perfect, but I do worry that making it too easy takes away the magic, right? Like, it takes away that aspect. And at the same time, like, if you're like, why do I have to play with other people? Like, you don't, but that then adds more difficulty to it. So lots of options there. Thank you guys so much for those comments. We got a few more comments to jump into, though, with the Kaiser saying, hey, could you explain why this is your favorite event? Speaking of the Rabbit's Revenge that's coming out. It's an event that I find really boring because the only activity is killing rabbits again and again and again until you killed 400 or more last year. How do you get your fun by doing it? It's a genuine question, no judgment, blah, 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 as I stutter. All right, so simple answer really is this takes me back to New World as an old school MMO. Like, New World is RuneScape for adults. Final Fantasy 11, if they continue to actually invest in it. And what it means is, like, there's something very relaxing about that. I think if you feel like a pressure, like, oh my God, I got to give 400 rabbits, this is awful. As opposed to like, hey, this is kind of neat, it's all in that perspective. So I really had a fun time. I teamed up with other people because it was more efficient to team up with other people, because more people kill more rabbits fast. And that was great. And it was like, I met new people, made new friends, talked to more people. It was very social. But because also I think a key aspect of it is that I'm not trying to find the efficiency, I'm trying to find the fun. And I find something fun about just slowly farming up stuff. It's like, I'm weird. I'm not saying that you have to agree with me. It's just this thing that's happening while I'm doing other things. Or maybe I'm just standing on the beach, just killing rabbits as they spawn, just for the hell of it, doing a little bit at a time, like not worrying about it. And I think the fact that they have a guaranteed drop after 400, you could get it sooner, which is a little bonus. But a guaranteed drop just means that, like, you're not going to sit here and be like, gonna stress. Because, like, overall, like, if you just, you kill a handful of rabbits every day, you're making progress. And that progress in and of itself, it'd be cool if it was trackable. I would think that's the one thing about the season pass, is that if I could track what's happening, what I want to work on, that gives me so much more insight as to what's going on. Constantly having to pull up the card, constantly having to pull that stuff up is annoying, because there's additional clicks that aren't necessary, being that we can track things, and that's a great thing, but it is what it is. Now, Unforgiven says, a plea for meaningful, immersive, challenging, and encouraging solo content in New World. Good content should not rely on external rewards to be enjoyable. For example, it's like you own a restaurant on Valentine's Day where the food is terrible, but if you manage to eat it, they will give you 25% refund. The experience is not enjoyable, even with the most promise of a reward. Instead, I urge the developers to focus on creating solo content that is truly immersive and engaging, where the challenge and enjoyment come from the experience itself, not just from the external rewards. The thing is about this, I agree. Like, if you have if bad food and you get a discount for eating it, that's a bad experience. Same thing within gaming, right? The one key thing, though, is that first time, especially like the motivator story or experiencing this for the first time, etc., where this comes into play, where the rewards should come in, is repeated playthroughs, as opposed to the first time. Because I think, generally speaking, like, especially from a story perspective, like, I'm generally curious, I'm going to play it. But if you want me to keep playing through the story, you got to give me a reason why I've experienced the story. It's like, if you're going to watch a movie, like, why would I watch this movie 10 times in a row? Well, if after 10 times, we're going to give you $1 million. Done and done. that reward has to scale with, essentially, kind of to help ease the burden of doing the same thing over and over again. And that's where, like, I see a lot of, like, MMOs struggle. It's like, how do we bring value to the content that we've made? And then, yes, try to make the best content that you can. But in terms of the solo player experience, I'm generally curious, what do you want to see? Like, what would it be that would be so appealing or compelling for you to keep doing that content over and over again as a solo player? But on that note, like, I think I'm just going to wrap up because I do think that the game needs some solo options, and I'm very curious to see what those are. Outside of quests, like, I think again, the aptitude level for the player, the aptitude level for the weapon, like, those systems enhance everything that the game already has to offer. And I think that would be really cool to see, because then you see more value for quests. Then maybe you could start talking about more repeatable quests that have more intricate ways of telling, like unfolding. And a little variety, also variety being the spice of life, goes a long, long way. Anyway, I got quests to clean off my board. I thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But until then, take care.